The Immersion Foundation presents deep conversation with ambassadors on the cutting edge of combative arts as part of a greater mission to revive the study of haploology through research, expeditions, and archival projects around the world. The Immersion Foundation combines rigorous academic research with hands-on immersion in the combative arts and elite performance training, forging a new path of growth, adventure, and contribution.
All right, back to our big principle, Super Chris. We had left off on Friday until using no limitation as the limitation, and we're gonna jump into essentially the next piece, which is challenging the status quo. So with that, I want to hand it to you.
Okay. Well, again, when we look, when Bruce Lee arrived on the martial arts scene, in the very late 1950s, early 1960s, there was a huge traditionalism reigned supreme in the martial arts, veneration, all of these sorts of things. And Bruce stepped forward and, as a very young man, challenged that status quo, looked at what people are doing and asked why are you doing it this way? And that was the one of the problem was the answers that he usually got were, well, we've always done it this way. This is the way that our teacher or our sifu or our sensei taught us, and we're passing it on. And as you know, there were forms were a very large part of martial art training in some of the systems. And excuse me. So Bruce Lee arrives on the scene and he looks around at what's going on, and he says, "Why are you guys doing it this way?" So the term status quo basically is the existing state of affairs, the way things are going on, the same way of doing things. That's what challenging the status quo basically means. And so along comes this individual and does that. Again, obviously in the martial art world, that upset a number of people because there was a, for want of a better term, a firmly entrenched power base. And I think a lot of the people at the time looked at this young upstart as somebody who could interfere with that. So that goes back from the martial component of it. And even today, it can still be that we do it that way because that's the way our teacher did it, and so on. So, challenging the status quo, as I said, is about challenging the existing state of affairs. Now, if we are looking at that as it relates to ourselves, then the status quo could be external, some outside force, be it a person, be it a group, be it a political organization, a religious organization, a social group. It could be internal, something about ourselves, an attitude that we have, things of that nature. An internal, the status quo might be our state of physical fitness, something like that. So when we talk about challenging the status quo, we're looking at what is going on, what is the current state of affairs, and then we want to change it. So we challenge it. One of the primary problems again is that the status quo, the same way of doing things, the same attitudes, leads to things like stagnation. We've seen it in the world situations, we've seen it in lifestyles, we've seen it in everything. So it can lead to things such as stagnation, a sense of complacency, again, all of these type of things. So when you challenge the status quo, you say, what is this? What is going on? And then what do I want to do to change it? And why do I want to change it? Well, that is the fundamental thing. So if it's about yourself, if it is about your level of fitness, for say, then okay, so that's the status quo as it exists right now. What am I going to do in order to change that? I don't like what's going on here. Again, so much of innovation in the world, it all comes from what? Challenging the status quo, the technological advancements, the medical advancements. They all look at that. If one tracks way back to the famous 4-minute mile status quo, there was a period of time where the scientists basically said it's impossible for a human being to run under a mile in under 4 minutes. They'll die. And that was the accepted status quo. And then I believe it was Roger Bannister, an English runner who stepped out and ran it in 3:59. And then all of a sudden, I think within 6 months, I don't know, 5 or 10 other people had done that, had achieved that. And part of that was a mind shift. Well, that status quo has just been blasted out of the water. So we're going to challenge it. See? So the other side of it is what you have to remember is, as with Bruce Lee, as with anybody challenging an external status quo, is you're going to end up stepping on some people's toes. And so there are some people that are going to resent it. They'll be upset by what you're doing because, again, you're throwing a light on something that they don't want seen, or you're taking something that they've been putting forth as gospel or the way to do it, and you're saying it doesn't have to be that way. So again, and even with yourself, when you challenge the status quo, possibly about your own mental attitude, your own mind will, kind of throw up those little barriers against it sometimes. That little voice inside your head, I always say there's a voice inside your left ear that's saying, we need to change this. You need to make this better. And there's another little voice sitting on, in your right ear saying, why? No, why? We don't need to do that. Everything's fine the way it is. So again, this is the fundamental thing of you stepping out and seeing it, and then also figuring out a process. We talked about process, not product, and so establishing an objective, and then creating a process that will allow you to do that, and then managing that process as you go through it. And again, that's fundamentally the idea of challenging the status quo. I mean, we could give countless examples, but that's basically it.
Well, I have a funny personal story to share here. I think you'll get a kick out of it. I was back in England and studying there, early days of Shotokan karate. So we're practicing Basai Dai. It's an old kata, blah, blah, blah. So walking through it, and then suddenly one week, it's very well known sensei. I won't name him on the podcast. Very, very well known.
Right.
Comes in and he changes things, and in the middle of the kata, we have this movement. I'm like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Nobody knew, and everyone just kept doing it. It was a year later we found out that it was his teacher wearing glasses. In the middle of the kata, the glasses would slip down, so he would push his glasses up.
Right.
And that essentially became the move.
Right. Well, there is another short story basically along that same thing, and the story basically goes that a young girl is watching her mother getting ready to cook a leg of ham, or leg of lamb rather, right? And she cuts like the last 6 inches of the leg off, and then puts it in the oven. And the daughter asks her mother, Mom, why do you do that? She goes, well, because my mother did. She goes, well, why? She says, well, I don't know. Let's go ask her. So they go and ask her mother, and her mother tells her this, does the same thing. Well, I did it because that's the way my mother did it. And so, well, why does why does Nan do it that way? Well, I don't know. Let's go and ask her. So they go and ask the grandmother, and the grandmother said, well, basic reason I did it is because I had a very small oven, and the
Yeah.
leg wouldn't fit in, so I would always cut that. So again, it becomes,
Yes.
excuse me, this accepted way of doing
Norm.
things, not the norm. Yes, and
That's funny because when we finally gathered the courage to ask him, I guess he's this. I'll tell you his name later. You'll know who it is.
that's fine.
Uh, and we finally gathered the courage to go ask him because it was old school Shotokan. You didn't ask your sensei questions.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Right.
he's like, "Oh, I need to figure the bunkai out." So when that gentleman came over from Japan, they asked him. He said, "What do you mean? I don't do that." He's like, "Oh, my glasses slipped down, so I pushed it up in the middle of the kata."
Right.
And now
Right.
you got this hundreds of guys
Yes.
doing
Yes.
that
Yes.
movement.
Yeah. I think we talked about that before too. Is in some schools, the students' heads all had to be the same height
Same
as the
height.
teacher's head. Now, the teacher's 5'5" and you're 6'3". Why are you doing that? Because that's the way it is. So yeah. So again, Bruce Lee was at the forefront in the martial arts world of stepping forward and challenging it, and I'm sure you can find examples in the technology industry,
Yep.
in the medical industry, of people have looked at something and just go, why?
Yeah.
Well, and then been willing to, right? Because again, you're stepping into unknown territory, and so it takes courage. It takes courage to step forward. A, you're stepping into unknown territory, and B, you can be pretty damn sure, as we said, that you are going to upset
A lot of people.
a lot of people. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think even though people like to say they are adaptable and like to change, when push comes to shove, most people don't want to change a damn thing.
yeah, or the only things they want to change are the things that are easy for
Easy.
them, or that don't require any effort or energy. Yeah. Oh well, I'll change that. I'll stir my tea clockwise instead of counterclockwise, or something simple like that. Yes, but the difficult things, yeah, changing a belief system, right, or challenging a belief system, that takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
And again, when we're talking about, I think it's really important when we're talking about challenging the status quo. We're not stepping up into getting into people's faces and being aggressive about it. And we have to do it this way. Being assertive, possibly, yes. That's different than being aggressive. So it's not about getting in people's faces. It's about seeing something, desiring, believing that it's a change, that it's necessary for growth, be it personal growth or growth of an industry, and just being willing to do it. Yeah, I think some people tend to believe that challenging the status quo, you have to become this bullying, loudmouth, in your face type attitude, and such is not the case.
I think that usually ends up being counterproductive and entrenches people in their old mindset more than anything else.
Yeah, I firmly believe that too. Yes, because the what they say, that the hairs on their neck will bristle, and yeah, it's not easy, to walk up to people and say, I don't agree with this, and I think it's wrong. Or again, on some things it can. On some things, because like you said, boom, they immediately lash out, and and I think that's the thing, that when you look at Bruce Lee, and like I said, he said, why are you doing this way? Well, because it's thousands of years. Well, why? And then their response was, well, who do you think you are to be stepping forth to change things? And his response was, well, who are you not to? Again, it wasn't like firing off. It's, well, who do you think you are, and who do you think you are doing this? And, well, who do you think you are not to? So, again,
Yeah, I think that's having the courage to ask why and following where it leads. That's the stuff of champions.
yes, yeah. It's often said the amount of time it takes to ask the right question
Yes.
when you're working with somebody as a consultant or a life coach or a personal consultant, and it's really easy to ask a bunch of questions. The difficulty is knowing the right questions to ask, and that can be, again, it takes a lot of work. Yeah, I believe that.
I think that naturally leads us into the next piece, which is the hacking away at the unessentials.
Mm-hmm.
So, wondering if you want to pick that up.
Well, again, if we go back and we look at Bruce Lee from a martial art perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way he approached his training was to reduce and simplify everything. When he was investigating, everything was questioned, looked at, analyzed, and then, if possible, the idea was to reduce everything to the minimum. So the question was, well, if this action takes 3 moves to accomplish it, can I accomplish the same thing in 2 moves, or better yet, in 1? So, so again, a non-essential is anything that anything that's become some form of impediment or that might restrict you in some way. Again, be it physical, be it mental, something that while you may have had it or needed it at one time, but you no longer need it. It's no longer necessary. So again, it becomes a non-essential, and you're looking at shedding, if you will, letting go or shedding any of these types of things. And again, this could be an external non-essential. You could even relate it to relationships. Perhaps you're involved in a particular relationship that is not good for you. It hasn't been for a long time. So it's not leading anywhere. So you might choose to again shed yourself of it. It could be, again, a particular attitude that while it was necessary for one time at your particular growth, now it's become restrictive or constraining. So again, you're just looking at getting rid of it. Internal non-essentials could be such things as, again, excessive tension, excessive physical tension in your body. It could be excessive mental tension, excessive stress, anger. Well, any of these type of things that they are in some way having a negative or less than positive effect on you. So you look at it, and again, you say, do I need this? What is it doing for me? What is it doing against me? Do I need it? And if I don't need it, then how do I go about hacking it away? And again, it becomes a process, because some things you might be able to just drop it just like this, but other things are going to take time. They're going to take time, and they take effort. A non-essential, an external non-essential, could even relate to your lifestyle. We've seen people that have massive houses, and three or four cars, and two boats, and again, I'm not saying that it's wrong that a person shouldn't have, nice things, but if those nice things are taking up all of your time, all of your money, so that you end up living for those things, then perhaps you need to get rid of some, pack them away. So it's about prioritizing. I think that's one of the best things. You look at it and you prioritize your life. You prioritize the things in your life, and then you look and you start seeing, well, God, man, I really don't need to be wasting my time on that. So then you simply remove it. So, and so in the same way that in the martial arts, okay, I don't need these other extraneous moves in order to achieve this. They tend to complicate it. They tend to increase the chances that the opponent can counter me while I'm in the midst of doing it. So I get it. I believe it was Leonardo da Vinci that said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So, and again, you look at your innovators: simplify, simplify, simplify. Steve Jobs was all about simplifying everything. How do we make this more intuitive? How do we make it simpler for the person to use? I don't know about now because he's been, passed away years ago, but I know that during his time when he was working on things, he was very, very much on, no, make it simpler, make it easier. Why do we need 3 buttons? That's too many. Let's have 1. Okay, good. Hack away the non-essentials.
Yeah, I think that is hard stuff though, and the next two pieces I think are so closely tied together with this, both the that choiceless awareness and non-attachment. I don't know how you could separate them, but I'm curious how you want to go at this.
Well, the idea is you have awareness, and then you have, we're or maybe not. We're all. I was going to say we're all aware, but I personally think that in fact I've written about it. I believe that there's a new ADD going on in the world, and it's not attention deficit disorder; it's awareness deficit. So many people are just not, they're either on their phone, they're doing something else, they're not aware of what's taking place in their surroundings. So you have awareness. The important word is choiceless awareness. Okay? And because, again, choiceless awareness is seeing what's taking place clearly and without any form of judgment, any kind of preconceived notions. It is to use that vernacular, seeing what is as opposed to seeing what we think should be or what we would like it to be. So that's, like I said, I think the word choiceless is the fundamental word here. So then what you have to look at is, do you have any barriers that are preventing you from that choiceless awareness? Any barriers that disallow you from seeing clearly? And again, we go back to what we call lens of conditioning: how you were raised, how you were brought up, how you see things, because that is the viewpoint that you've either been trained or developed to see things through. So again, you have lenses of conditioning. You have there's a term, confirmation bias, in which is that basically you start from a conclusion or a statement, and then all of the work you do is to find material that confirms that bias, right? It's like starting from a conclusion or your position, and then going around and pulling in everything that is positive or relates to what you're doing, and
Cherry picking.
disregarding anything that doesn't fit in with what you're doing. So you have these lenses of conditioning through which you perceive things, perceive people, perceive situations. You have confirmation bias where you've got your idea. What's the saying? My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with the facts, right? And then you've got labeling again, where now you start labeling people, you start labeling things. So these are all things that stand in the way of you simply looking at a situation. I think it was Krishnamurti. I believe it was Krishnamurti that, and Bruce read a lot about Krishnamurti and adopted. So some people say, I have to say that I have a pet peeve here, because some people say, oh well, Bruce Lee, he just plagiarized Krishnamurti, this person. Sometimes you read material and this person can say in writing what you're thinking in your mind, and you have parallel lines of thought. And again, we go back to these ideas that Bruce Lee wrote down were for him. They were not for anybody else. So, you have that, but I believe it was Krishnamurti that made the statement about it's very difficult to see things clearly because we tend to see them as not as they are, but as we are. Yeah. So that again, that's maintaining. That's what we mean by can you maintain an awareness? Can you see what is going on without throwing in judgments, without being for or against that thing? The other thing is that maintaining a choiceless awareness relates not only to seeing but to listening. Can you listen in the same way without all of these things, without these lenses of conditioning that, if somebody says something that doesn't fit with your thing, it immediately gets shut off or immediately gets turned out that way. So awareness is visual awareness and auditory awareness. And I think it's very important that, can you listen to what somebody's saying and simply hear what they're saying, not what you think they should be saying or what you believe is the right thing to say. So again, that takes us to maintaining choiceless awareness. When you're talking about the idea of detachment, or I use the term cool detachment, because it relates from a martial art perspective. That when a martial artist is facing an opponent, can they have this mental attitude of poise, but they're not attached to what is going to take place, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's an attitude of detached. It's a detached attitude of mental poise and emotional poise, and so I like to use that because I remember reading or hearing a story of Bruce, being in a situation where it could have become an ugly situation, and he maintained an attitude of detached coolness, which again eradicated the situation. So what we're talking about is non-attachment, which again, I think it's much more, I think it's difficult for a lot of Westerners to understand that, because they, the Zen idea of non-attachment and what it can be, and that there can be all types of physical attachments. So you're looking at what is an attachment? It's like a holding on to something, tightly clinging to something rigidly, and um, where again that's allowing it to have an effect on you, right? And again, here you have all kinds of attachments, or anytime you allow anything to get that hold on you, it has become an attachment. Whether it's again an internal one, a way of thinking about something, a way of doing something, or something external. You can become attached. You can become attached to a person. You can become attached to a job, where, oh my God, if I lose this job, my life is over. If or anything physical, you can have like that. So what is taking place is that that thing has a hold on you, and that can create problems for you. There's all kinds of problems. You can become obsessed by it. You can become obsessed by getting a particular job. You can become obsessed by making a certain amount of money. You can become obsessed with a person. We've seen this, in the eons of time, where individuals have become obsessed with other people, and sometimes it's led to very tragic results, or very negative results. It can create a distorted perception of a person or a thing, because you're so, I need this, I need that. So it can distort your perception of who that person is, and again, things like that. Um, you know, um, we I think part of it's just human nature, quite honestly. Um, and again, I said it. I believe it is more of a Western thing, because they have never been taught that thing of letting go of something, of releasing it. Um, you know, they also think that I think that they get this idea that non-attachment means you've got to cut yourself off from people. You've got to give away all of your belongings. Again, we're back to that same idea, right? Which doesn't mean it at all. Um, Non-attachment means you shouldn't care about anybody or anything. That's not the case. That's far from it. You can have a state of uh, non-attachment and still care very deeply about what you're doing, or about this other individual. It's simply that you're not possessive of them. You're not obsessed by them. You recognize the transient nature of life, and the impermanence of life. That things can be here and then not be here. So I think you're looking at that. So the non-attachment, kind of like you said, it does relate back to the hacking away of non-essentials, because non-attachment, or detaching yourself from something, requires a letting go of it. And so, let's say you want to detach yourself from something that's holding you back. Well, there's a process. First, you need to, or it's important to ascertain what it's doing to you, right? Then ascertain why you want to get rid of it. What are your reasons for wanting to detach from it? You cannot detach from something you want to be attached to. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's like, I've got this car is costing me too much money. It's just a money pit for me all of the time. I've got it. Oh, but I love it. It's so much. It's a part of me. It's You've got these opposing things going on with each other. So again, it entails letting go. It entails no attachment to outcome. You know, if I don't get this job, I'm going to die. You know, if 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 this person doesn't return the feelings I have for them, my life will be over. I'll be devastated. A martial artist. If a martial artist goes into a combative situation, just real quick, we've read, and those of us in martial arts, we've read about the samurai who that draws their sword and just stands there and waits, and they're not thinking about living or dying because they know that the moment they think about that, they're going to die. So they've detached themselves from the grasping on of life. Again, that life is holding them tight and rigid. So, like I said, we can do the same thing. Or if a martial artist goes into a combative situation with an opponent and they're so concerned about the outcome of this situation that they can't function with 100% capacity. They're going to be a little bit reticent. They won't give it whatever the full amount of whatever they've got. So one has to, again, learn non-attachment to outcome. So
Yeah, I think from a Western perspective, that is rather hard. I struggle to explain this to a lot of people, but I mean, the Gita also talks about it quite a bit. Says, do your thing and don't worry about the fruits of your labor. You basically do your thing, and that's that.
yeah. Again, if you have to take a college test tomorrow, and you're so concerned about the outcome of that test, again, you're going to start tensing up, right?
Yes.
Maybe you don't sleep well that night. You go in, you're agitated. Instead of, recognizing that I've done the work, now we just see. Yeah. It's so again, it is a difficult concept because so much of us weren't trained that way, you know. Uh, and so it becomes difficult to say, you know what, again, what will be will be. It's already decided, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, because I think we're so many times that's pushed upon us. Oh no, it's got to be important. It's got to be important. Which again, when we talked earlier about process, not product, we're so product conscious as opposed to the process that gets us there. And again, if we relate back to the combative situation with the samurai or martial artist, like I said, it doesn't mean that you don't care about living. It doesn't mean you're complacent about it. It simply means that thing is not holding you so rigid and tightly that it's restricting you in doing what you need to do. So you and I, we've talked about this as we've gone through this. All of these principles, these principles, all fit together.
Yes.
Like they're all links of a chain. Not if you take a bunch of chain links and put them individually side by side, they're useless. But put them into a chain, yeah. Now it has use.
Yes.
So all of these fit together. The maintaining the choiceless awareness can help you become detached or non-attachment. They all fit together. So that's what I love about it. It's that it's not, and it's not. Well, here's a bunch of ideas. Here's a thing that I'm going to give you these 10 steps, and they're going to take you to freedom, personal freedom, or or whatever it is. No, these are principles. They are ideas. They're things that can guide you to move in that direction. You know? So
Yeah. So I know we covered through those. This was a big one around fluidity. We covered the 11. Anything comes to your mind as you want to wrap this particular big idea and the sub principles?
uh, you mean compare about the entire thing that we were
Yeah,
talking about?
the 11, yes.
Yeah. Well, again, the idea is if, or the goal. I'm trying to think of it best. The primary thing is if you wish to be able to adapt efficiently and effectively, fit into situations, be it physical situations, be it relationships, anything, one needs to maintain fluidity of both thought and action. You know, anything less than that, again, will restrict us in some way. As I said, the be like water is the most oft quoted. I believe probably more than anything else, it is. I believe be like water is the most oft quoted statement of Bruce. But as I said, what does that mean? It's very easy to say that. And so we again, the fluidity of thought and action. Be like water. What are the characteristics of water? Can you apply those characteristics to yourself? Like we said, right? Adaptability, patience. Uh, again, ignoring boundaries, always looking for a way to find a way. And if one is blocked off, then immediately flowing towards something else. Yeah, that's why I think I believe that maintaining fluidity of thought and action probably was the largest section
Yes.
of Liberate Yourself. There were so many involved, so many sub principles built around it. So yeah.
And I think also, like you said, probably the most misquoted of the principles that exist out there.
Yeah. That and it's funny that and the using no way as way,
No way as the way. Yeah.
which we also covered in here, correct?
Yes,
Right?
we did.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Well, again, having a clear understanding of the principles for me as a Jeet teacher, it's vital for my students or whoever I'm sharing with that you get a clear understanding of that. Because as I said, these philosophical principles are the foundations upon which Jeet is built. You know, and if you don't have an understanding of those, so as we said, using no way as way. My God, it's been used so many different times in so many different ways. And well, that's my way. Well, that's my way, and that's not what it means at all. You know, the harmonious understanding the yin yang. You know, um, sometimes when people come into my school or I'm talking, or again, I'm giving a talk. If you come into my school, my students, I'll point up because I have a copy of Bruce's logo on the wall, and I'll say, if you really truly understand what the yin yang is, what it symbolizes, it will make you better at everything. And it doesn't matter of a person's religion or their belief, or their philosophical idea. It will make you better at it, but you need to have a clear understanding of what it is. I think it's again probably one of the most important things, the dynamicism of it, and the not seeing things as opposites but complementaries, and each thing possessing a portion of the other. You know, not running to extremes, and that is this dynamic state of movement, constantly shifting. It's not a static image. Yeah, I think all of those are essential elements of maintaining fluidity of thought and action. You know? So
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the yin yang symbol and the fact that it's constantly changing and still each one contains the opposite.
yeah,
And within that something new emerges at
yeah,
each instance.
yeah. Well, I think because it's been on. I mean, the yin yang has been on everything from China, dinnerware to T-shirts to
Yes.
surfboards
Yes.
to logos, but it's not this flat, one-dimensional image. It's this again, this alive thing. We reduce it to a flat image, but it's not, is it? It is everything, and it's recognizing that while good is great, there is a portion of bad in all of us, and it's to recognize that we have that, not to deny it, and then not allowing it to take charge. And again, I always like to use the thing of the yin yang, how it has the small part, and then it grows into the big part, and then it goes at the end, and then the next part takes over. And so again, I relate it as a teacher, as a coach. Activity continues, training continues, activity starts off small, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's going to reach a point where rest has to take over. So rest takes over, and then again, that goes on for a period of time, and then activity takes over again. Yeah, yeah. I can see why Bruce used it as his logo, the interchangeability of the opposites, right? And like we said, no, they're complementaries. We have day and night. If we didn't have night, we would not know what day was,
Yes.
right? Yeah, because it would exist, but we wouldn't know it.
Yes.
So yeah. So yep, I think it's
I think that pretty much sums this up for today, Sifu Chris. So thank you as
well,
always.
always sounds good. So I think.